Yeah, we are live now. We'll wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll start. Very good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay, I think we should get started. I see good number of people already joined. So, very good evening, everyone. This is OT Security Huddle, and my name is Shiv. This is 20th episode, specifically focused on rail cybersecurity. Joining me is Ashish. He is an expert on railway cybersecurity, and I'm glad to have him on the platform. He has really put some good content, which is very jam packed, and we have an agenda to discuss. So, thanks, Ashish, for putting the effort, and I welcome you on the platform.
Thank you, Chef, for having me on the show. And I think in today's session, we will go a little bit deeper on this subject, rail cybersecurity. And if there are any questions from the audience, I will definitely address those.
Yeah, I am also looking forward to this, Ashish. Glad to have already people are sending some greetings. I'm able to see that.
Mhm.
Uh, so maybe we can start now. It's a good number of people is what I'm seeing online. So once again, welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, based on the location that you are joining from. Before we begin formally, this is a formal disclaimer from my side as well as Ashish that whatever we are putting up is out of our personal interest and the opinions are personal. So please don't uh, take them as the opinion of the organization we are associated with as a day job.
Yes.
This is us. My name is Shiv, and I work for Siemens as IEC 62443 expert, support various 62443 specific activities, and been doing this OT security huddle sessions on various topics. If you are watching it for first time, this is 20th episode, and we have discussed a lot of topics starting from building a career in OT to the topics on automotive security to doing a risk assessment and various other OT specific topic. Joining me is Ashish. Ashish is currently director with Silas, which is railway cybersecurity focused company, and he is looking not only the region India but several other regions, specifically the APEC one. And he's gladly accepted the invitation to join us on OT Security Huddle to share the knowledge on this very, very specialized topic, which has slightly different cybersecurity requirement than the other operational technology topic. So before we go further, Ashish, I will invite you to formally introduce you because you are joining the platform for the first time, and it will uh, make sense that you introduce yourself.
Sure. Shiv, so as you have already introduced, and I manage Asia Pacific region for them. My background is I'm a rail systems expert. Started my career in Indian Railways, worked on a couple of national infrastructure projects in India, and after that I was working for a French multinational. It's one of the company OEM in railways, Alstom. Spent my career with them in train control systems, engineering, rolling stock side as well. Worked in different geographies with them, and after that I joined Silas. I have a couple of patents in railway signaling, and also I have built security products in the past. So that experience will definitely will bring a more value to the conversation that we'll do today. Sure. Thank
No,
you.
it is quite elaborate and quite evident that your career pretty much spans towards various part of railway. And I'm equally excited to know much more about this topic and really look forward to our discussion.
Sure.
Okay, so let's quickly move forward. So we have a jam-packed agenda for the day. We are going to discuss how railway security is different from the other sectors of OT. What are the emerging cybersecurity threats for railway infrastructures? Then we'll also see the challenges specific to these threats that we see in the railway sector. We'll also see some global best practices standard and the compliance requirement from the regulatory bodies. And finally, we'll take some questions as well as the key takeaways. So, as we know that initially the malicious actors would use to target the IT infrastructure a lot, and there are n number of incidents now where we can see that the fun of initially attacking the IT infrastructure is now losing a space, and then the actors really want to prove that they are having technical knowledge of the critical infrastructures. So this is some news snippets which actually shows uh, the attacks that are happening towards the railway infrastructure. And the one that is specifically I would like to recall is the Polish tram derailment, where the attacker was a teen and then he was actually using a TV remote, I guess, and then he had jammed his signals or fiddled with the signals, and then ultimately the tram was got derailed. Apart from this as well, there are a bunch of other attacks. To speak more on that, I will invite you, Ashish. How would you define the change in the landscape towards the attacks and the threats that are happening for the railway infrastructure in the past?
Rishabh, you have rightly touched upon, about some of the attacks. But when we look at attacks on the railway environment, year on year, these attacks have grown significantly. They have become much more sophisticated, and the most important part is hackers know that railway environment is hackable and vulnerable. So this is important. When we put it in the figures part, we have seen rise in 173% attacks only on the railway environment in last couple of years. And when these rail authorities gets compromised in any way, if it is a ransomware, if it is a denial of services or malware, um, $1 billion is lost on each account. And the other part is, in today when we look at the geopolitical situation, there are different countries who are in different in a war situation. Rail is one of the cheapest way where they can kind of disrupt the transportation. And the other part is, when we look at rail itself, it's kind of a environment which is multi-vendor environment. Okay. And today, the suppliers can come from any part of the world. And again, geopolitics today is playing a major role to create any disruption.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a very good input that railway being a multi-stakeholder, multi-vendor environment. So that dynamics actually plays a big role where you need to establish trust between these stakeholders, and these misses in the trust actually will create much more attack vectors compared to the other one. Yeah, let's move forward. This message is clear that we are seeing the transition towards digitalization. Uh, I've experienced this, and everyone I think who is joining us online, they would appreciate this, that our rail infrastructure is now much more digitalized than it was 10 years ago. We have robust locomotives, state of the art locomotives with new technologies. We even have the Wi-Fi available in the moving trains, and this could actually be one of the attack vectors, right? There are some, I think, some news which I have actually earlier read through where these kind of issues are highlighted. Then also, I see the one of the incident which I don't know if you remember a few years ago in one of the metro station in Delhi. The display system was bugged and somebody put a nasty clip over there. So these kind of attacks are also possible, though we don't know whether it was an attack or a mistake with somebody actually working in the background. But what the message here is the digitalization and also the increase of technology for connectivity also has brought the challenges, the threats, and the issues like the other operational technology sector. What would you like to add here, Ashish?
Shiv, I would also like to add one, like two or three examples where you mentioned about Delhi Metro. I've seen similar incident happened in Germany. It was a German national rail operator DB, and I think in 2008 or sometime there was a WannaCry attack, and the passenger information system was compromised. And this was another a scenario where it created a chaos on the station, and whatever the messaging hackers want to provide, they can provide it. And similar incident also happened in Paris metro as well. And these are some of the right examples. It has happened, and anytime it can repeat. But going back a little bit, why digitalization is important in railways? Because today, what you mentioned about either Wi-Fi on board, or we are using a lot of digital services. The most important part is we want to make rail much more efficient, passenger friendly. We wanted to also reduce the headway of the trains. We want more trains to come to the station. And because every operator is today struggling with the traffic during the peak time. So we need to reduce the headway as well. So what we are doing today is we are adding lot of new technologies. Okay, either predictive maintenance solution, asset management tools, lot of digital services, IoT based devices, sensors in the railway ecosystem itself. So there are legacy systems which are working already from last 10, 15 years, 20 years. And then we have added on top of that these new devices in the rail ecosystem. They have to basically provide better services, right, to the passengers, and which is quite critical and important. But what has happened, this legacy system which is currently working, it doesn't have any kind of security inbuilt into it. But what we have done is we have added new devices, new services into the railway ecosystem, and without basically understanding the impact from the security perspective. So basically it comes with a risk. That's the main message. And it also depends on the risk appetite of the organization, how much, with what level of better services they would like to add such important components into the rail ecosystem.
Now, this actually is true for all these changes in any of the operation technologies. Whenever we introduce a new technology, the due risk assessment is one of the
Yes.
precursor, and all these standards that we are seeing, the regulations that we are seeing in the past, all talk the same language. That whenever you are introducing a change, even for operational efficiency, you need to first check what are the technological integration that is going to be there, and what is the new risk and new attack vectors that could be possible. Yeah, so let's move forward. This is one slide where you are expert, so I will again hand it over to you. What is the difference between IT versus the rail OT system? And also maybe you mentioned availability and other part here, which are typical to security. Maybe would you like to take a step back and first quickly talk about what is the difference between safety and security? Because safety is very important and critical part of railway infrastructure.
Yes. So basically, I have a different slide on that, with safety versus cybersecurity. But I will touch upon on safety first. So basically, when we look at rail systems, okay, either it is a signaling system or a rolling stock system, SCADA. So when we look at these systems, they are designed to be fail safe. Okay, these are safety integrity level. Okay, there are different safety SIL levels which are associated with these systems. And what happens is, whatever a mistake that happens into the rail ecosystem, okay, it will basically make system fail safe, which will basically stop the train, okay, which will stop the operations. So this is how the systems are designed. When we look at security, okay, when these systems were designed, again 15, 20, 30 years back, these systems were designed to be fail safe, okay, but there was no security thought process around that time. So looking at a Salesforce system can have a zero security level. Okay, and today the most important part is a Salesforce system needs a bare minimum security. It could be a security level 2, security level 3, security level 4, depending on how critical that system is into the architecture. And today there are various standards, and we will also touch upon that particular subject at a later stage. But this is important to understand. Whenever we speak about security in rail, people think about firewall. Okay, but they don't go beyond that. The interesting part is any IT security solution like firewall, they can only give you 5 to 10% coverage. Okay,
Yeah.
95% of the systems are very proprietary system. Okay, and they are built to safety of the rail ecosystem. So I think it's important to understand what is the difference between IT systems and rail OT systems. There are, there is a nice table here, but when we look at the bottom line of this particular table, okay, rail systems, once they are designed and deployed, okay, whether it is a new train or a new station with the signaling infrastructure and all, it will run for minimum 15 to 20 years. Okay, and once the safety case is frozen, okay, people don't touch the safety case again. Okay, in the security side, you always have a threat intelligence and updates, and you keep on updating your the IT part of the piece. But in rail, you don't kind of update the security or the system safety part every time. So it's important to understand this particular difference. And the availability is super high. Okay, when we look at the CIA triad, okay, when we look at confidentiality, integrity, availability part, and as well. So in IT, the confidentiality and integrity is at a higher level, but in the rail OT systems, the availability, or in a normal OT environment, availability is at a higher side. Okay, you need to have systems working to function. And the other part is there is a direct or a real time impact on the rail OT side. It can, in the rail side, it can lead, if it is a worst situation, if there is any accident happens, it can lead to a safety critical issue, and it can lead to loss of life as well in terms of passenger safety. Okay, the complex part in rail is a mix of 20 to 25 subsystems speaking with each other, talking to each other. Okay, and these different subsystems are coming from different OEMs. Okay, which could be, the major OEMs where you are working, I have worked with in the past, or maybe an OEM which could be in different regions altogether. And these OEMs, when they bring their systems, they bring these systems which has a proprietary protocol working. Okay, inside this, and these proprietary protocols are very very difficult to understand by any IT security solution, because IT security solution is not designed to understand these proprietary protocols of different OEMs which are working into the ecosystem. The signaling supplier could be different, the rolling stock supplier could be different, the ticketing supplier could be different, or basically the SCADA supplier could be different. Building management can come from a different supplier. So it's a very complex environment, and for rail systems, there is a requirement of a different dedicated architecture that needs to be secured. And in the past, what I've seen today, most of the network which is working in the operational environment, it is a flat network. Okay, it's not segmented, it's a flat network. And basically, when it is a flat network, we understand there is a high level of risk around it. And this is the reason the standards, today these new standards are pushing to have right segmentation of the networks, and there are different kind of technical things that that needs to be done on the architecture side as well. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one key message that I see is here is the solutions for the railway infrastructure are turnkey solutions, which is so many components coming together, and then the entire system is there. It's not modular that today you made some mistake and tomorrow you go and then change that module. So it becomes much more important for the solution designer to think these safety and security requirements ahead in time with due guidelines, due compliance, and as well as the risk that it could pose to the overall infrastructure. Very well explained, Ashish. Yep. So I think this was the one that you were talking about the safety side of the rail infrastructure, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If basically if anything fails in the rail system side, on the OT side, what happens is it stops the train. Okay, the interlock, the signals will go red when we look at the signaling part, or when we look at the rolling stock part, train may stop. But what happens is, overall, if you look at, it will create an impact on the operations. Okay, it can lead to delay in the trains. Okay, if an operator wants to have, I would say, a train every 2 minutes on the station, it will basically stop that. Operators will not be able to achieve the operational efficiency, and at a later stage, it also impacts the financials of the organization as well, because operations has a direct connection with the finances and the reputation of the organization. So there are a lot of things which are associated with this. And again, when we look at the new kind of attacks that have started happening, these uh, fails, if any of the attacker triggers the fail-safe mechanism. Let's say there is a defense movement that is happening. A train is taking the arms and ammunitions, tanks, to the border. Okay, if you trigger the fail-safe mechanism in a war situation, okay, then it will not reach on time, and the purpose would be defeated. The other part is, similarly, in a city, if there are attacks that happen on the metro organizations, okay, and we have seen that,
Yeah.
basically, what is the end impact? People would not have trains available to go back to their homes or to reach the office, right? And what they will do is, the dependency will go on the Ubers, or different rail sorry different these apps, where they use the taxi services, right? And what
Yeah.
happens is, it basically escalate the fares during that time. And there is a lot of impact, and people who were having dependency on the rail, they don't have another option, either to use these taxis to reach home. So there are different implications on that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, trains being the most affordable mode of commute and transportation, any impact on the infrastructure would be causing much many issues which are cascading in the nature for so many things, the economy, the livelihood of so many people. I remember last year I was in Germany, and this was snowfall which were not anticipated during that one particular week. So even though German trains, as you mentioned about DB, they are very well oiled machines when they are running, but with the anticipations of weather, once they'll stop, then they will stop for undefined period of time. And it's not like India that you can reach out somebody over the internet and they will give you the information when you need to be at the station to get the latest update. So that's how the economy goes for standstill if the infrastructure is not working, whether it is for the reason of weather or maybe the human induced reason, which could be a cyber attack. So, having said that, we know that there are challenges. We know that there is digitalization. What are the primary challenges, Ashish, for the railway infrastructures?
Yes. So today, when we look at the modern rail ecosystem, what we have seen is we are moving towards grade of automation 4, okay, which is unattended train operations, driverless train operations. And in this particular format, the things are much more connected. Okay, so today when we look at uh, again, I told you about the multi-vendor environment thing, right? Signaling
Mhm.
could come from a different environment. The train to ground communication vendor could be different. SCADA could come from a different vendor. So again, managing all these different systems is a big challenge and a complex task, right? From the security perspective, we have been using it. We have been using the CBTC, or the unattended train operations kind of scenarios in the past. When we look at on the similar grade of automation, we are seeing on the European side ETCS, okay,
Yeah.
European Train Control Systems, and which is like level 2, level 3. And uh, I think one of the basic um, one of the basic thing from the cybersecurity perspective, when we look at the frameworks, let's start from the framework. We speak about identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Okay, so when we look at the first one, which is identification. Okay, what I personally see when I meet with different rail authorities across the globe, the visibility, which is the identification of the assets, are lacking. Okay, they have some kind of list which is on the Excel file, where they know, like, these are the assets that were deployed 5 years back, 2 years back, or 10 years back. But the real visibility, which is like in the current or the real time, how many assets are really connected, are operational, if there is any. Because of what happens is, periodically when the maintenance happen, you change the assets as well, you replace it with a new one, you will add new stations, because what will happen is you have to extend the line as well, you will add more rolling stocks, you will change your automatic fare collection systems as well. So all these things doesn't have customers really lack that visibility today. And once you don't have that visibility of this interconnected systems, it is very difficult to secure your system, like customers ecosystem as well. Because today what you see, you will
Yeah.
secure that, right? If you don't see those things which are in your network, it will be difficult to secure. And the other part is, uh, when we look at there are new standards and compliance which are into picture now. Okay, we will speak about that topic in a minute. But these standards, these compliance are beautifully designed, okay, to basically upgrade the security level of these operational systems. But what happens is, there are operational systems, legacy systems working into the same environment. And what you need to do to kind of basically improve the security level of the legacy system, this is something which is very complex to very complex to basically think about. And people have not done audits, risk assessment, as you mentioned previously. So basically they don't have the real situation of their environment, what is the gap, what they need to do. So these are the basic things. And that there are complex standards that needs to be adopted and followed. What I've seen is, there is a lot of awareness on rail cybersecurity. Each country today is kind of publishing their own frameworks and laws. And again, how to deal with those things are also one complex topic for the rail organization or the CISOs, okay, who
Yeah.
are working in these.
Yeah. So, as we see that there are n number of components, and the risk could come at each one of them, which is having a unique challenge itself. But one basic question that I have is, one side is the main line, another side is our metro lines. So when we
Yeah.
compare these two, there is a visible difference in terms of technological deployment. Metro lines being new, you will see the difference of new technologies, different kind of locomotives, and also uh, much more sophistication in terms of development. So what do you see is the challenge in both the lines? Some maybe one or two markers which you see these are the biggest issues that needs higher priority in the main line versus some key issues or challenges in the metro line.
So when we look at mainline or versus these metro lines, so first of all, again, I would differentiate into two parts. One is where these are the new projects or upcoming
Mhm.
projects, okay, which we called as greenfield projects. One is brownfield, where things are already working
Yeah.
and we need to secure those things. So when we look at the cyber security, or safety critical systems in the rail ecosystem, we have used a word called as critical information infrastructure, okay, which are with this word CII is basically used in many countries by different authorities. CII systems are basically those systems which needs security, because rail is part of critical infrastructure, and if any malicious actor or a hacker gets into the system, he could or the this particular a hacker or a malicious actor could be penalized as well, because it is part of the CII. And when we look at the CII, I would say signal. So again, based on different countries, there is a list of which systems
Yeah.
comes under CII. Okay, so it could be mainline or it could be urban system as well. But I have seen 7 to 8 systems which are part of this list. One is signaling system. Okay, signaling system, depending on either it is urban or mainline. Again, if it is urban, it could be the CBTC system. Okay, if it is trams, it could be a different system. If it is mainline, it could be ETCA system, interlocking, PTC in US, positive train control in US, or if it is rolling stock, in rolling stock, TCMS, train control and management system, passenger information systems, Wi-Fi on board, train to ground communication, JRUs, and all. Okay, if you look at tunnel ventilation system is also part of CII. Fire comes under CII. Platform screen doors, DCN, data communication network, and the backbone, which we say, okay, train to ground communication, all that part comes under CII. So there is a list which is available, and different countries have adopted different systems which basically comes under critical infrastructure. Now looking at mainline versus CBTC, coming to this topic again, mainline, we will see that most of the systems are at a very far from the geographical location. Okay, so maybe an interlocking is if it is an automatic signaling, or if it is ETCS, it is way connected. So or a train, let's Netherlands, or basically Paris to London, right? It will encounter different ETCS system in different parts of the country, right? So maybe somewhere the the communication provider is different. Different interlockings would be there in different European countries, right? So the most important part is uh, the, the challenge is the risk can come from anywhere. Okay,
Yeah.
it may not come from a specific country or a specific vendor, but it may come from a. What happens here is, again, the overall risk is to the complete system. Okay, and what I've seen in brownfield security level country, and they have defined a higher security level, then on their side it is fine. Okay, but when it crosses to some other country, then again there is a risk. So this is the reason the regulators understood that there is standards that it shall be adopted, standards that it shall be adopted specific by those specific countries who are basically who has specifically deployed these systems. Okay, so
Yeah.
I hope my audio is clear, Shiv.
Yeah. Your audio is clear. There seems like some network issue. So,
Okay.
and for a moment, you actually was kicked out of the meeting as well. So, what I will redo the summarization of what you are explaining, Ashish, basically is like the main key difference between the urban infrastructure, which is the metro line, versus the main line, is the geographical spread. And with the geographical spread, the responsibility of the entities also changes. So there are n number of entities and number of geographical locations. So physical security issues are one, which are much more elaborate in the main line compared to the urban infrastructure. That is very well explained. And also, I'm glad that you mentioned CII, which is the way that the Indian government also defines the infrastructures as well as multiple other countries across the globe. So, just a moment here. I think, are you there, Ashish? Okay. While you come back, maybe I'll just re-summarize what you have explained. Yeah. So, you're glad that you mentioned CII, and the CII basically tells the component of technologies that are involved in maintaining these infrastructures, and it also gives the understanding that which are the critical assets in an organization that could be possibly the one that needs to be secured when you are talking about the overall security for that organization. I'll just quickly check. I think Sheesh is having some issue connecting back. Yeah, Ashish.
Okay.
So
There was,
internet is playing around the same thing which we are discussing, critical infrastructure.
yes, exactly. So, apologies for the technical issue, but yes. Okay, so Shiv, we were discussing about the main line versus the
Yeah.
urban part. Yes. So
So
in
while you
India,
are away, I just kind of re-summarize what you're explaining, the key difference of the geographical spread and the being the urban infrastructure. I think with seeing the time clock, I'll just take it to the next slide, and maybe you can just retouch upon what you are explaining over there. Yeah.
yeah. I think this is one of the use case related to the rolling stock part. We have discussed about the signaling part, which is like ETCS, CBTC, and these systems. But when we look at the rolling stock is a unique environment as well. When we look at the door control unit can come from a different supplier, brake control unit, pantograph, auxiliary, and when we look at the end impact, it is on the trains. Okay, and the passengers would be sitting inside the train, and whatever the operational issue happens, either train is late or either there is a in a worse situation, if there is an accident, it will basically impact the life of the passengers. So again, when we look at the trains, if, if you look at the old trains, again the same situation. It's not the network is flat, it's not segmented, multi-vendor environment. We don't patch the TCMS, which is train control and management systems and all. And again, it will be communicating uh, over radio based communication. Okay, and when we look at the radio based communication, whether it is 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, these are not encrypted or authenticated as well. Okay, so what we see, and when we look at the belices and all, okay, I've personally seen vulnerabilities in ETCs as well. We have seen the protocols that are used in rolling stock, whether it is MVP protocol and all. There are a lot of vulnerabilities there as well. So and since we don't patch those things, again, these are like time bombs, okay, which could be triggered at any point of time, and it can lead to a safety situation. Let's go to the next slide, where I think one of the MVB protocol part is highlighted, where we see if someone takes a command of of MVB protocol as a master, then they can basically play with the train. Okay, they can basically have the full basically authority to play with the train. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities, and I would say challenges. On the safety part, it is definitely proven. Safety cases are well defined, but what about the cybersecurity cases? And today we don't see cybersecurity case very frequently discussed in the rail ecosystem. This is a big gap. And I think today, when we look at these standards, or whatever the projects are happening these days, we also from this we also need to think about cybersecurity cases as well. Which systems are vulnerable, how to, what to do when you need to patch a system, risk assessments and everything.
Yeah.
So I think, in a nutshell, when we look at the hard reality, okay, we see a big gap, and systems are not designed to for security. This is a big gap. Okay, safety cases, reassurance is at every change. This is important to understand, that we also need to think about this specific topic. And replacing, again, when we look at security, we have to do something on the security, but you cannot replace a legacy system overnight. You cannot change a system overnight. So it's important to basically see what is the priority, because the priority is to have trains operational, and whatever the timetable has been decided, train runs according to that. So the priorities need to be decided as well. And whatever the security needs to be deployed, it should be financially viable. You cannot basically deploy security level target 4 for everything. Okay, and this is the reason I think standards are playing a right role here.
Yeah,
Shiv.
yeah, absolutely. So basically, the key, if I we have to summarize what we have discussed, the challenges versus the uniqueness of the rolling stock versus the hard reality. One key message that I see is the systems being so much dependable, you don't have that window of rethinking when you have once deployed. So we need to be ahead in time, and in security language we say is going left to understand it during the design stage itself,
Yes.
and then have the possibility of security. That's for definitely for the new system, but for legacy system also we need these challenges to be addressed
Mm.
through other possible countermeasures, where you can deploy some solution which are putting as a layer on the existing legacy components, or maybe a new solution altogether. So maybe we'll talk more about this, but let's quickly move forward to the next slide, which is the critical infrastructure and also the corresponding regulations in the region. Uh, in India, we don't have any rail specific standard or regulation as yet. But yeah, the ministry is picking up on that. NCIPC, the nodal agency, was declared rail infrastructure as one of the CAIs. They are taking it up. But across the globe, what are the key regulations that are available? Would you like to highlight that?
Yeah. So Shiv, again, depending on each country, there are different frameworks, acts, or different standards have been published. because of the geopolitical situation, or depending on which which system they consider as critical. Okay, so I told you, I gave example of few systems which comes under critical infrastructure. Looking at so again you will find TSA directives in North American market, right? NIST cybersecurity framework. In Europe, we have seen IEC standards quite actively used. Even Senelec came up with technical specification 5701. Okay, there is a new version that came recently as well, and I think they have beautifully designed the right architecture, what and the best practices that needs to be adopted for the rail part as well. In Asia, in APAC, I've seen in Australia there is a different standard, AS 7770, which is the Australian standard 7770, and a SOCI Act. I think I would like to comment on that, because one of the line, which is one of the first principle in AS 7770, is if it is not secure, then it is not safe. Okay,
Yeah.
so they have started their I would say their standard from that particular line, and it means a lot if you go a little bit deeper into this statement. Okay, and we have seen specific critical infrastructure regulations in Singapore, which is CCOP, V2, Thailand, India as well. India has specific guidelines that came out from different ministries, from MoHUA, which is the for the metros, and from Ministry of Railways as well for the main line. So when we look at the holistically, when we look at the main standard, I've seen a transition from, you are an expert in IEC 62443, that is more like a course standard, which is for the industrial control system. And still today, many of the rail authorities, consultants are using this as a main standard. Okay, you can definitely speak about that, what are the best practices. But from IEC 62443, Senelec came up with TS 5701, which is currently a technical specification. It is not a standard. And from here, they are moving to a next standard, which will become the major standard from IEC, which is IEC 63452. Okay, I think in next couple of months we will see that published, and from IEC 62443 we'll see an evolution towards IEC 63452, and this would be the core standard. Okay, which needs to be adopted, and the systems should be designed from the preliminary design phase itself, as you mentioned earlier. So we have to think about cybersecurity, and they basically the core and the core, or the most important part, is secure by design. Okay,
Yeah.
from there you start, and then you go deeper on the other side as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have discussed enough of security. Let's move back to once again to the core comparison between safety and security. How safety again? I'm bringing you back to the same question which I asked in the beginning. So maybe this kind of summarizes the debate here. What would you like to add here, and how you differentiate, maybe quickly, the safety versus security?
I think more or less we have discussed this during our conversation, but when we look at safety, I told in the beginning that systems are fail safe, and if you look at the standards that are followed, there is one EN 50126, 128, 129, and then, but when we look at cybersecurity, again there are two parts. One is for the IT, okay, and another is for the rail OT, or the operational technology. So ISO 27001, 27005, more on the IT side. But for the OT, IEC 62443, Senelec TS 5701, IEC 63452, which will be the future standard. And when we look at safety is mostly, if there are any human errors, or if sometimes even employees create a risk to the system. Okay, unknowingly it will basically avoid any kind of accidents, okay, unintentionally.
Yeah.
But always remember, cyber security or cyber incidents are externally driven. It is intentional attack. Okay, so this is the major difference where we have to secure our ecosystem from the external intrusion. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is important to understand. And the other part is we don't change the safety case again overnight. Once the systems are deployed,
Yeah.
you don't change the safety case. But in security, we have to change things, because you will find a lot of security updates coming. Okay, today, let's say a system got compromised in some part of the world, in Europe, US, or in Australia. Okay, and if if we have identified if this was a secure cyber security or a security incident. Okay, then if that same system, okay, is working in a different country, right, we have to patch that system as well, because it should not be a case that a similar that particular malicious actor will compromise your system as well. So security updates need to be timely. Okay, timely, I would say, updated by the rail authority. These measures needs to be taken. There should be a proper governance process that needs to be designed around it. Okay, and this is how the things are kind of taken care in the cybersecurity side.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we have sufficiently covered these challenges, the difference between them, and maybe quickly we touch this technical specification 50701, and then we'll conclude and then quickly take the questions. We are already in the last part of the session. So maybe would you like to give a quick overview of the standard, Ashish?
Sure. So, I think I've seen in some of the questions as well. TS 5701 has been discussed by a lot of people. So
Mhm.
let's kind of go over it quickly. So what we have seen in TS 5701, at the bottom you see, trackside environment, trackside infrastructure, field elements like point machines, interlocking, train to ground communications, automated train protection systems. Okay, in the middle you see the rolling stock part. Okay, onboard ATP, automatic train protection. We see brake control unit, door control unit, auxiliary, comfort, Wi-Fi onboard, public services as well. At the top we have operational control and maintenance layer, where we will find a traffic management system, energy control systems, and others. On the right hand side we see stations, where we will find again auxiliary and different systems altogether. And there are different functional groups around it. You can see the different color coding in this particular figure. But when we look at TS 5701, it beautifully came up with which systems have high risk level. Okay, which systems need high security, which systems need medium security, and which one is low. And today we don't need to kind of push ourselves, or maybe the rail authorities need to, I would say, wisely design their security architectures based on this. So let's say point machines, interlocking, train vacancy system, or ATPs and all, they are at high risk level. Okay, you can see that high is written there, right? Some systems are at medium security. Some systems needs low security. So these different assets, or basically networks which are interconnected, has different security needs. And I think when we start designing our architecture.
I think Ashish is again kicked out of the meeting. I'll quickly check with him. Yeah, so I think you got dropped again.
I think this is twice, unfortunately, but I think mostly we have covered the architecture. But
Yes.
the bottom line here is there are different security needs. We have to have proper visibility of the assets. We need to do segmentation of the network, which is quite critical. Okay, you cannot have a flat network gets compromised. It should not create a problem to locking out to the safety critical part of the network. So rolling stock needs a different security, and this is rightly defined in Senelec TS 5701, which basically applies for signaling system, train control systems, rolling stock, any fixed installation into the rail environment. So. With this, I think I've covered the architecture. If there is any specific you know questions or comments, and I can address that.
Yeah, we'll take the questions, but a quick summarization. What is the key takeaway? The first, of course, is rail systems are not secure unless we start the cybersecurity mindset in the design phase itself.
Yeah.
Then, understanding the assets is precursor to any security, understanding or risk assessment. So it's required that we have visibility of the assets which are spread across the geography and also the mixture of different systems. Then understanding of the technologies which are there from the sector itself, as well as the cyber security technologies that we can use with the railways, also much more important. If we talk about security levels according to 62443, it's not always possible that you have the highest level of security and also highest level of availability. So you need to find a common or the middle way where you have the optimal operational capability as well as the optimal level of security. Then, of course, these systems are not air gapped. And if somebody says that we are air gapped, it's a myth. We have seen this myth is busted so many times since the Stuxnet. Uh, much more is coming up there. Yesterday, I think I was reading one of the attack in somewhere in Europe has happened where the malware is designed to take away from the air gap solution itself. Even 2 or 3 years ago, we heard of this malware called Ramsey, specifically designed for the air gap systems.
Yes. So here
Then
I
the
would like to add a comment.
yeah
What I've seen in different part of the world whenever we speak about cybersecurity, uh, people think and that systems are secured, right? They kind of in a situation that they feel that it is a closed loop system not connected to the internet and things it will not create a problem to them. And the other challenge is they have never done a risk assessment of their network. They don't know if there is a weak point in the network as well. But I think now there is a maturity, but still there is a conservative thought process around this particular point.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not the least, yeah, we need not to wait for the regulations because it is the assets that we all the professionals should share the responsibility for making them much more secure for the general public good. So we need to have the solutions, technologies, and the capabilities to support our critical infrastructures. So I think we have consumed the entire slot for discussion. This was much more involved discussion. Of course, there is much more to also add. Maybe we can have some further discussion, focused discussion on the rail cybersecurity. To me, it was really intriguing discussion. We'll take quickly some questions. I see people have really asked good a number of questions. So let's quickly jump into this questions for now. The first question: does IT tool work? IT security tool work? I think it's not a full question. Maybe there is one more from Malini. I'll just flash that one. Which security tools are used for OT security? Um, so the answer is not simple. Which security tools are used? There is much more that is being adopted from the IT security side to the OT security. We use some of those tools, but then their OT specific tools are also available. And I think, would you like to add here that one or two tools which are specifically designed for railway cybersecurity, Ashish?
So Malini, the short answer is for rail, the specific tools are required to understand these specific protocols, okay, of the rail industry. Okay, again, it's a complex environment to understand the different subsystems altogether. So currently, I work for a company called Silas, and Silas is a category leader in rail cybersecurity space, and we have a tool called as Silas One, which does this part. So maybe you can connect with me offline, and I can give you more detailed insights about how this product helps on the rail security side.
Yeah. Then we have one question from Ian. Won't fail-safe mechanism affect the availability of the system itself?
I think we have briefly discussed earlier that, of course, if a malicious actor triggers a fail-safe mechanism, okay, the train will stop, or you will find the system will go to a default, spec, which is the color, okay, and no train operations will happen. So basically, the availability of the system, okay, would become a challenge in this situation, and there are a lot of incidents that has happened in the past around it.
Okay. Yeah, so I see a lot of questions around the standard. I think we have already answered those questions when we discussed about the standard, but maybe I'll quickly take few last one. John has asked, what is the new standard talks about physical security? Is it part of the scope? So since you mentioned that the new standard is being adopted from 62443, 62443 actually covers physical security as well. But what would you like to add, Ashish? Do you have an insight? Is physical security considered in the standard?
I When we look at, since this T701 has been co adopted from IEC 6243, so the physical security part that you just mentioned, has been rightly answered by you.
Okay, sure. Maybe the last one by Sheriff. What are the security level targets through the architecture and on subsystems? So the direct answer is generally these critical infrastructure should be somewhere 3 to 4. But do you have a different opinion, Ashish, here?
I think security level targets is nationally defined, I would say. Okay, sometimes I've seen in many projects, in many tenders, that people need security level target 4, which is the highest security level target. Sometimes it is also very difficult to be achieved by the system supplier as well. It's not easy, because when any system needs to be deployed into the real ecosystem, generally to achieve a security level target 4, okay, they have to first of all change their product and have to go for a certification around it, and sometimes it may take maybe 2 years to get the certification of security level target, right? And many times you don't need that level of security. Many countries I have seen that security level 2 or 3 is something which are getting considered because of the current situation. And I think whenever any new systems are getting designed, it's super important to follow these standards, and needs to be adopted.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that your internet is also suggesting that it which we are over time. So in the last question's answer, you got dropped 3 times.
Okay.
Uh, Sorry about that. I think sometimes the system that we are using it also have some technical glitches. But yeah, it was a very, very engaging discussion, Ashish. I really enjoyed this, and thanks for putting up these slides very elaborately. Of course, there could be multiple more sessions on the topic. I'm still seeing that people are suggesting to consider the standards like CPTAD, which is climate design and threat prevention. And then other aspects of real security as well. So maybe we'll see through. If you have time, maybe we'll plan some other session, but it was really, really good. Thank you for your time and putting up this effort.
Thank you, Shiv,
With
for
that,
having
yeah,
me. So,
yeah. So with that, I would say goodbye for the day. Have a very good rest of your evening and rest of your day. Thanks for joining. If you have any specific further question, reach out to Ashish or me on LinkedIn. These sessions are available for future viewing at both the platform on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. So you can also watch them offline. Thank you. Thanks again. See you guys in next session.